Our next project is all about creating floating collages, using random, or not so random, images to create an interesting design. Think about how and why you are using the images. Placement is a big deal. The following are ideas to get you started to think about the concept of floating collages. While these are digital, they really appear like they were cut out from magazines or newspapers or even old family photos. That is what we call a visual aesthetic. Visual aesthetic is the overall style or look of something. It's how colors, shapes, and patterns come together to create a certain mood or feeling. For example, your favorite video game or social media feed has a visual aesthetic, whether it's bright and cheerful or dark and mysterious. Now, visual balance in a collage is about arranging elements so that no part feels too heavy or overwhelming. Symmetrical balance means both sides match, creating a calm look. Asymmetrical balance uses different elements, but still feels balanced and interesting. Visual harmony is when all the pieces work well together. Even if they're different, they fit in a way that feels natural and connected, like using colors that go well together or sticking to a common theme. So, when you make your collage, think about these ideas to keep your artwork looking organized and visually pleasing. The next part of the video is Mr. Johnson's demonstration. In the folder on Collage, you will find a wide variety of different images that I have provided. These are all high-resolution images. You are only allowed to use what is in this media album, not from Google. Your goal is to create an aesthetic or vibey floating collage using the tools you have access to. Minimum of 10 items from the folder, but certainly you can use more. Focus on cutting/cropping out different parts of the images, just like we did for our last assignment. When you find something you like, click on the image so it opens up like this. Then right-click, Save Image As. Then open that file in Photoshop, Ctrl+O. When you have opened it, then you can start using this Select Subject button. If it does not appear for any reason, go to the top bar. Click the menu that says Select. Then click Select Subject. Honestly, I don't know why some of the computers don't show the Select Subject little icon. If there are parts that are not selected, or if there are parts that you did not want selected, then you need to use the lasso tool plus the add-on slash or subtract function of the lasso tool. This is the way to add on to the selection. I use a lasso tool to go around the area I want to add to the selection. I need to make sure that I surround the area completely. Once I am okay with the overall selection, then I can use my shortcuts for copy, which is Ctrl+C. I then can go to my collage document and click Ctrl+V and then Ctrl+T to resize and move around. Repeat this process with different photos that you find interesting. Take your time when looking through these. Mr. Johnson has supplied a ton of different options. You can use whichever ones you'd like. Your goal, though, is to make a collage that feels balanced and feels visually appealing. Think of the collage like you are putting together an outfit that looks good together. Focus on similar colors or accent pieces that make your collage pop. Play around with the placement and the overlapping quality of your collage. When I make collages, I am never fully set on my overall composition. I allow myself the ability to try different placements, different photos, and different ways that I cut out the items. Often I will think something looks good, only to come up with a new idea or a new placement, so I may end up deleting different parts or totally changing my design if needed. Additionally, you can do things such as cutting apart images, just like we did with the deconstructed image. Here I am playing around with using this phone as a piece to reshape and create something visually interesting. Here I am using this dollar bill, but I want to modify it so that I can create a window where George Washington is. I need to make sure that I am on the right layer when I am doing this though, or else it will not work. Always remember to check your layers. Once I have selected the area I want to delete, then I click the Delete button on my keyboard. Then I can use Ctrl+T to resize or rotate my image. I am really trying to think about how these images interact. I like the idea of this puppy having his eye visible through the empty space of the dollar bill. It breaks up the space and allows for some visual interest. I even decide to duplicate the dollar bill by clicking Ctrl+C and the Ctrl+V, and then moving the layer underneath the puppy layer. By doing this, now I have created a sandwich effect where the dog is in between the $2. Remember to check where the layers are in comparison to each other. To move the layer, I click and drag, moving it either up or down. In this case, I am moving it downwards underneath the layer of the puppy. For this next part, I want to select a single bird from this photo. If I were to use the Select Subject tool, this wouldn't work because there's so many objects in this one image. I could use my Magnetic Lasso tool, or I could use the Object Selection tool, Hotkey W. I need to make sure I right-click on this icon in order to select the right one. I then change the mode of Object Select tool from Rectangle to Lasso. This allows me the flexibility to select small areas of the image to auto-select. However, it should be known that it might not always work. In that case, you may need to manually select it. I am deleting the areas I do not want to show in between this owl's legs. I make sure I have the right layer selected, and using the Magnetic Lasso tool, I select the white space. Then I hit delete. PNGs are one of the best things in Photoshop. A PNG is an image with no background, meaning the background is transparent. There are no pixels present. If your image is a PNG, it makes copying and pasting so much easier. I will show you how to figure out if your image is indeed a PNG or not. When I open this file up, I notice something right away. Number 1. It has these checkered boxes in the background. Photoshop displays nothing as being these gray and white checked boxes. If I can click on the icon using the Move tool, and it allows me to move it or resize it like this, then that means it's a PNG. This is great because then I can just click on the image and hit Ctrl+C and then paste it into my document. Don't be afraid to try and resize things together. I click on an image, then click and hold Shift and select another image that will allow for both images to be selected at the same time. Then I can Ctrl+T to resize the images together. This is great for being able to resize things and modify my design quickly. Using multiple of the same images can be a really good way of creating repetition or visual interest. Just make sure that you're doing it for a visual purpose, not to just repeat an image for the sake of repeating an image. I use these blue cubes as a way to draw the viewer's eye upwards, and as a means of connecting with the hand I had put into my image. I wanted it to seem like the hand was reaching up towards these cubes. Think about how your images relate to one another, not necessarily relating in a theme, but how do they relate as a visual complement? Do they play off of each other? Does your image convey motion or emotion by putting two images next to each other? You'll notice the choices of images I have here, especially with the eye of the dog and the eyes of the owl, they can be interpreted as looking down towards the hand. The number 7s that change from bigger to smaller and slightly rotate, they also create visual movement, pointing down towards the hand. This is what is called leading lines, and it creates a point of emphasis or interest in my overall design. Keeping this in mind when you create something can be a really effective way of making a good design.